segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Lauren gets initiated to Gold and Black Live with our moving table. That's good. Lauren Link joins us. She needs no introduction, but to us, but to some folks, she is very ingrained in Purdue athletics, nutrition and fitness. Your deal with your primary responsibility is football, men's basketball.
Soccer and volleyball.
Soccer and volleyball. Soccer, there's a reason for that. Maybe 2007, she was a part of the Big Ten, Purdue's most recent and maybe alone Big Ten championship in soccer.
Yeah.
And a student athlete at Purdue, and she is the better half of her husband as well in terms of Logan Link, a fine Purdue player, walk-on that ended up contributing a lot to Purdue football under Danny Hope. I think his last year was 2011. You guys met at Purdue.
We did.
You don't have to tell us all the story, but you say it's a classic Purdue story of two student athletes getting together, I guess, but how did that come about?
Really just athletics. I feel
Yeah.
like y'all know each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Two of our teammates were dating. They're
Yeah.
no longer together at this point, but we're grateful that they dated. Just we're around a lot of the same events and hit it off one day. We're both obviously athletes, both former walk-ons who
Yeah.
ended up earning some scholarships. So we have that in common, I guess.
The pride of Bunker Hill and Mechanical High School, which isn't all that far. I know she says she's from Kokomo, but that's not about 50 miles from. So you were familiar with the Purdue brand and Purdue sports from a very young age, I assume.
Yes, that would be putting it lightly.
You're a huge Purdue family. I mean, is that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Everyone went to Purdue, grew up going to games, watched the women and men's basketball, football, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Lauren, we talked before we came on camera just about the importance of nutrition. Somebody like you is really one of the more valuable people, I think, in any athletic department. You are what you eat, right? And I'm curious, you talked about the sports you work with, but from a football standpoint, I see you at spring football practices now. Just talk about maybe how you monitor what a player eats. I know there's different times of year the nutrition demands are different, but right now, a player, an offensive lineman, a redshirt freshman offensive lineman,
Yep.
talk about maybe how you develop a nutrition plan for a student athlete.
Well, it varies a lot based on the sport for sure, but also just the individual athlete. So the way I usually describe it is that there's kind of a whole spectrum of where people are at with their nutrition. And we assess that right when they get in, sometimes even before they get in as a recruit. Maybe we have an idea. So the first time I sit down with a guy, I'm really trying to feel out, okay, how much do you know about nutrition? How much is accurate of what you think you know about nutrition? What are our goals? Are we trying to gain weight? Are we trying to lean out, lose weight? You name it. There's all kinds of situations that we might deal with. And in terms of monitoring that, it kind of just depends. Right now is a pretty big time where we're really focusing on body composition changes. So those guys who need to gain weight or lean out. So some of those guys I'm watching a little bit closer. At dinner, I'm maybe having those conversations, checking in with them pretty regularly. It's pretty rare that I know exactly what they're eating all the time, unless they maybe are reporting to me if we've got somebody who, okay, we got to get this figured out quick, or they really want that extra help. I try not to be the food police where I'm knocking the bacon out of their hand or something. But definitely right now is a good time period. Preseason camp, very much honed in on kind of every meal they're eating because it's all with us in our training table facility. So it just depends. I know that's kind of a broad answer, but the individual's different, the situation's different.
Sure.
In regards to what spectrum that would be on.
And without breaking any, any disclosure, but Travion Williams has been a much publicized his weight loss, and you've obviously had a part of that. How has that gone? And maybe as a good example of a student athlete that is probably has some level of compliance, but didn't come in with came in with trying to solve a problem as well.
Yeah, Trayvon's been, everybody knows he's done an awesome job of getting his weight down and really leaning out. He's been fun for me because we really started working together from one of his early recruiting visits, sat down with his family and had that conversation. And then as soon as he signed and we were able to really communicate, he was texting me food logs, and I will just say I knew early on there was a lot of work to be done. And that's usually the case, when you're talking about a high school athlete. So we had a lot of conversations that summer leading up when he got on campus. Obviously easier to start honing in. With Trey, it was not atypical, but he wanted to go almost like 180 degrees the other way. So like, I want to go vegan. I want to really cut out all these big food groups. And I was like, okay, like let's not get crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you need some of that stuff. And so I have those conversations a lot, I think, when you talk about weight loss, and especially a drastic weight loss that we're looking at. It's you want to do it quick, you want to do it some really spectacular way, when really what needs to happen is just consistency, long-term goals, and slowly getting the weight down, which he's done a really good job of.
Yeah.
So.
And he's been able to, and it's a trick to be able to do that and also have enough strength to be and stamina to do what you have to do on the basketball court. And that's a challenge as well.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I told him early was, you know, you could lose 30 pounds, but if you're playing like crap,
Yeah.
the coaches aren't going to care that you lost the 30 pounds.
Yeah.
We have to be able to maintain performance as you get the weight down. So that tends to stick with them a little bit, is ultimately we're here for performance. You know, that's why you want to play basketball at Purdue. You want to perform well. So that sometimes can bring them back to reality a little bit of like, oh yeah, I have to have the energy levels, the stamina, all that stuff to play.
How close do you work with the weight training staff? Does Justin ever come to you or Gavin and say, hey, what's this guy eating? I need more from this guy in the weight room. Do you consult often with the strength and conditioning staff to try to meld the diet and exercise?
Absolutely. So ideally, I would add to them the sports medicine staff. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
a three-pronged approach.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, Gavin and I, Justin and I, and their football staff with strength and conditioning are talking pretty much every day, multiple times a day. So it might be a conversation around weights and where people are at with their weights. It might be a conversation about performance. Hey, I noticed that this guy isn't moving the same weight that he's normally moving. I feel like he's not fueling well. You name it, we might have that conversation. I think it's really important that you're not all operating in silos
Yeah.
because there's so much overlap between not only the strength and conditioning piece. Justin always says it, and I love it to the recruits. You know, you can't out-train a bad diet. And we're like, yes. Preach. So they do
You
a
need
great
that
job.
reinforcement, yeah.
They do a great job reinforcing what we do, and that's important for the guys to hear that. And like I said, the sports medicine piece is huge. If a guy's coming back from an injury, nutrition's a huge piece of that, and so is strength and working that back up appropriately. So we do communicate daily, for sure.
I walk in the Mollenkoff, the old foyer, and they got that nice new nutrition center. Have you seen that, Alan?
Oh, yeah.
You walk in there. I mean, that's something that's just evolved. I guess unlimited snacks, probably the last
Yes.
3 to 5 years maybe. Talk about that little snack bar and maybe what's available to the athletes.
Yeah, so that it's probably almost exactly 5 years coming up. It was 2014. The NCAA made a drastic change in legislation that really opened up what we could provide. There historically had been a lot of stipulations around
Yeah.
what we could provide. And so with that, fueling stations are what we call them. That's what you're referencing.
Yeah.
We have them, what feels like everywhere, but in our weight rooms for sure, we have a fueling station in each. We have a fueling station out at most of our facilities, so out at soccer, tennis, baseball, swimming and diving, you name it. And essentially, the goal is grab and go snacks. We want to make sure that they're fueling right before a workout, that they're fueling right after a workout for recovery, and then, you know, they're active, they're all over campus. We're trying to get them like, yeah, grab a snack or two, put that in your backpack.
bag, yeah.
So a lot of it, you know, it's not full meals at the fueling station by any means, but a lot of quick grab and go things, trying to make sure that they are fueling appropriately and that we're educating around what they're grabbing at any given time.
Always look at it myself because I say, well, I'm 59 years old. I want to keep my calorie count between 2,000 and 2,200, which is maybe a little on the high side. What's a typical calorie count? And calories is not the whole game, and not even maybe even a relatively small part of it. But what does a typical football player eat from that standpoint, or how much protein and all that comes into the factor?
Calorie-wise, it would be rare if one of our guys is eating less than 4,000 calories a day.
Sounds good.
It's a lot.
I know it's the right 4,000.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of calories. Maybe in a weight loss situation, we might have somewhere closer to like 3,000 or 3,500, or for a specialist who's
Yeah.
not burning as many calories. But at least 4,000 in most cases, all the way up to 6,000 or 7,000
Yeah.
if it's a big guy who's trying to gain weight,
Yeah.
especially in preseason where you're practicing 2 times a day. Well, not anymore.
Yeah,
But
not anymore.
back in the day. So yeah, they burn a ton of calories. They're doing that and trying to gain weight. So oftentimes we're trying to work with them. How can we be creative with squeezing in enough
Yeah.
calories? Because it becomes a chore almost.
Yeah,
It's
to
like,
eat.
oh my God, I have to eat again. I'm not even
I
hungry.
wish I had that.
Drudgery.
Right? Yeah, not a problem that we have.
One of the things, and I don't know if we can put it up because Lauren is an author, and that validates our show, because all the great shows, they have books, they're selling books. She's really not selling. The healthy former athlete, and that is a challenge, and I guess I want to ask for your philosophy, because it is a challenge for guys and men and women that have to eat large amounts, and then they graduate, and then
Right.
they got to
Yes.
work their way down. This is her book on Amazon and other fine bookstores, I'm sure, around the country. But tell us about that and that challenge of once they're done too. What do you have to? I mean, it's an education process, I assume. But how much do you try to remind them also that once your playing days are done, that you need to change back, and that can be a challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It's something that's not addressed enough,
Yeah.
in my opinion. We have done a lot better job, I think, at Purdue. You know, we have a program now called BLAST, which
Yeah.
stands for Boiler Life After Sport. We have different people come in and talk to the team, but even still, it's just like such an underrepresented part of their life that's coming up, and it's especially hard with football because a lot of these guys are training for the pros.
Yeah.
They finish with us and they're still training for the next few months, and so sometimes we might not even see them. You know, they either sign and go off somewhere, or they don't make it and they are back at home, and it's like, oh, I wish
Yeah.
we could have had that conversation. So I think it's important to talk about the calorie level is just one of many aspects that are difficult. But yeah, you go from having to eat so much to just keep up, and then all of a sudden your activity level drops off hugely, usually.
Yeah.
And usually hunger does not drop off
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah,
And
I
so there's a
found that out.
mismatch. I mean, there's so many challenges for this population. Your muscle mass usually decreases, which can affect metabolism. I could go on.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of challenges for the transition time frame that athletes generally aren't really prepared for.
Is body image something also you have to deal with? Because and I don't mean to be sexist. Is it more with women than men? But maybe not always. But how much is that a factor as well? Because
Right.
people still want to look good when they're done, when they're out playing, or when they're it can be a factor, I would assume. There may be a psychological component for you.
For sure. I think body image is a huge piece of it, and both male and
Yeah.
female. You know, women often they do want to kind of slim down when they're done playing whatever sport because they've been lifting, and we hear it from our female athletes all the time, like, oh, I'm so muscular or
Yeah.
whatever. And sometimes that happens, and then they realize, oh, like I kind of wish I was more muscular again, So we see that. Men, for sure, it's difficult for a lot of people when you go into the workforce to try to keep up with that routine, even if you're
Yeah.
really motivated. Oftentimes guys will get out and you realize, oh, now I'm sitting at a desk
Yeah.
for a large chunk of the day. Oh, I don't have a free, amazing gym with free trainers
Yeah.
available. And so even the most motivated person doesn't always make it happen because it's hard and it's expensive and it's inconvenient. And so the lifting usually falls off first in my experience, although not always. And just general activity, things start to add up. You lose muscle mass, you maybe gain weight. Even if you don't gain weight, sometimes your body composition shifts.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it does. And that can lead to body image kind of dissatisfaction, I
Yeah.
guess. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors, but I think it affects most athletes that are finishing.
Hey, Lauren, where is Training Table? Is it still in the Cary Quad, and is there talk of building a dining hall?
It is still in Cary Quad. And we've been there for as long as I've been a
That's
part
what I
of
thought.
Purdue Athletics.
Goes all the way back to my days.
there was
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, we've been there a while.
But I've heard scuttlebutt about maybe a dining hall. I mean, I'm sure there's all types of plans, but
Right.
maybe there's nothing you can talk about, but I'm sure that's probably on the to-do list or would like to-do list at some point.
Yes, I can tell you, I wish I knew more
Okay.
about definitive plans, but definitely conversations happening about what is the next best move. Is it a dining hall? Whether it's athlete, like through athletics purely? Is it something that we partner with campus on?
Gotcha.
Where will it be? I mean, there's a lot of discussion happening about it, but nutrition really is kind of this next wave right now of what we are providing to student athletes. So that's something we're definitely looking at, is how can we do more meals across the board for all of our athletes.
If I'm a football player, year-round, how many times a day can I eat a meal at the training table? Is it just dinner, then I'm on my own for breakfast and lunch?
Correct. Yep. Just one meal at the training table, but all of our student athletes have some different stuff available to them, whether it's the fueling stations, which again isn't a meal per se,
Yeah.
although I feel like a lot of our student athletes eat breakfast there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of breakfasty type things, easy to grab. And then we also use a program called Mucho, which is an app on their phone that we load money onto that they can grab a quick snack, whether it's a Jimmy John's sandwich or Chipotle bowl or something like
It's
that.
like a prepaid Visa.
Kinda, yeah. So there are different ways that we're trying to get some
Okay.
more food in our student athletes' hands, but would I love a dining hall? Absolutely. I'd love an all-athlete dining hall where we're doing more meals that they can show up for multiple times a day.
Yeah, well, my guess is that's in the works, but it'll never come as fast as you want it, I'm
Exactly,
sure, from
yeah.
that standpoint. This is good conversation, could go on for another couple of segments, but we're gonna let Lauren get back to work, and we appreciate it, very interesting, and I know you're doing a great job. I hear all the good things, and it's probably never a dull moment as well.
I think that is for sure.
Yeah, no question. All right, we want to thank our sponsors, Hilton Garden Inn, Triple X, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, and of course, John Basham, the good folks at Basham Rentals. We will have a show next week. Tom Dienhart will be your host, so it's going to upgrade it.
There you go.
To a far level. Hopefully, if you're a Purdue fan, and you probably are if you're watching this show, the Boilermakers will still be playing. That would be a heck of a feat if that's the case, because would be heading into its Elite Eight game if that's the case, because Purdue will play tomorrow night, 8:40 p.m. on TNT. Next week they are on a Thursday-Saturday sequence in Louisville, so we'll see what happens there. I want to thank also all the folks at WLFI, Gordon, Brad, Steve, on down the line, everybody that helps make this show happen. We're grateful for them as well. Have a great week. We'll all be tuned in tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll be talking about Purdue basketball next week in our final kind of regular season edition of Gold and Black Live. Have a great week, everybody.